Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Klára Mikulíková, and before I start my presentation, I would like to really express my gratitude and thank to Dr. Borek Severa, who is the director of the Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom based in Prague, for inviting me to this inspiring conference. Today I am going to share with you some, let's say, overall reflection of the Hungarian presidency in the Czech media. So generally I would start that it's really pity, and I'm really sorry to say that Czech media actually didn't pay so much attention to what was happening on the board of the council as it may have deserved, and we really scarcely were given any news about the Hungarian presidency. The month which was really full of the news was just the January, and since then we really experienced rapid descent of the news coming up. Anyway, I would like to focus on some topics and headlines that Czech media turned to during the Hungarian press, and all these topics were already mentioned in here. Above all, the most covered and issued headline in Czech media was decisively the Hungarian media law. Then the Sol taking over the Hungarian presidency, and of course, as usual, it slowly becomes a real decoration of the entry hall of Justus Lipsius. Then they also tackled the March EU summit and the exception of the Euro Plus Pact, going to another critical point with the exception of the Hungarian constitution. We also the Czech media also tackled the issue of the conclusions of the accession negotiations of Croatia. So I would like to go gradually. Hungary, at least according to Czech media, took its office very loudly and vigorously. The reason for this was that it was really joined from the very beginning with the issuing of the new Hungarian media law. We might even say that the news about the media law actually preceded the news about the beginning of the Hungarian presidency. And this, according to some observers and journalists, was a really a real PR disaster. What was really mentioned in Czech media was and criticized was the appointed independent authority by Fidesz governing party, which allegedly should control all the media through from broadcast to the press, and it also might, let's say, or it was set to decide what news are balanced and which news already not. It's prudent to say at this juncture that the media law was associated with the Prime Minister Orban and his activity as himself, and that's why we also could read some references to President Chavez or President Putin and their treatment and way of governing in comparison to Prime Minister Orban. This really caused some public alarm, but also on the ground of the European Parliament, because when Prime Minister Orban actually came to the European Parliament to introduce the Hungarian priorities, he was actually denounced, and the visit turned out to be a grilling over this media law. Unfortunately, at the same time, there were two more another issue discussed within the Czech media, and it was as previously mentioned, it was taken the private pensions under the state control, and this was given by the Czech media as an example how not to do a pension reform in the Czech Republic, because as you might all know, we are just undergoing the essential economic reforms as well. The other issue that was tackled was the imposing of exceptional taxes on the major foreign investors. Among them was, for example, the Czech jump energy provider ČEZ, next to the German RWE or E.ON. And this issue actually was followed by its own story when during the March, 13 major foreign investors appealed to the European Commission to start the legal proceeding against Hungary because of these issues. This issue, but was also covered by the Hungarian Constitutional Court as well, because it actually gave such a decision about it really might not be according to the markets, European market freedom. So, the Czech media also couldn't avoid some linkage with the Czech presidency as well, of course. So we may have come across some apprehensions in press and general doubts what the Hungarian presidency would be like. There were topics saying, for example, like, would it be the same shape as the Czech one? Or we hope that after all that we wouldn't say, we might forget about the Czech presidency for the Hungarian one. So this ironical atmosphere was really tangible in Czech media at that time. And as I mentioned in here, it slowly becomes a rule that the decoration of the entry hall at Justus Lipsius causes a public alarm. As you might all remember, the Czech decoration designed by the modern artist Mr. Czerny and his Entropa. In this case, in Hungarian case, it was nothing less than the decoration on the carpet, which showed a map dated in 1848 with all the parts that belonged to Hungary at that time. So this was what actually caused the public alarm. Okay, now I'm going to the first attainment, at least according to the Czech media. They really characterized the March EU summit and the accession of the Euro Plus Pact as a first real success owing to Hungarian presidency. The promotion of the Stability and Growth Pact, Euro Plus Pact, is based on the way or on the basis that there will be some pre-approval of a national budget before they come into force on a national level, and they will be pre-approved by the European Commissioner on the EU level. At first, it's for the Eurozone, but as we might all know, there are, I assume, 6 more non-Eurozone states that entered this Euro Plus Pact, again, except, for example, Czech Republic or Hungary. But this was really one of the dealing with the financial stability in Eurozone was initially set up as one of the Hungarian presidency priority, and the Czech media really appreciated and said that this priority is really fulfilled. The attainment was followed by a new constitution exception during the April. As I mentioned here, it brought about a similar public alarm, and I just chose a few reasons why it was criticized in Czech media. First of all, is the confinement of the Hungarian Constitutional Court. Czech media related this directly to those exceptional taxes on foreign investors because they said that this was a really attempt of Prime Minister Orban to limit those competences of Constitutional Court because of its decision about those exceptional taxes imposed. Then it's a stipulated 2/3 majority for all the future essential bills or laws, as for instance is the pension reform. And it was said that allegedly it's in practice prevent opposition to perform its task to do its job, because even though the opposition won, it wouldn't be able to create a 2/3 majority anyway. Then there was another issue criticized, which is the prohibition of referendums on constitutional changes and some other people's initiatives. The last point I chose it deliberately. It's a dual citizenship, granting citizenship for those Hungarian citizens living outside Hungary in Europe. And this issue really, it was like a red rag to a bull for the Slovak Republic. So I put it as a last point, just to show that this was much more bilateral issue between the Hungary and Slovak Republic, because Czech media didn't actually mention any other states that would be alarmed by that. Now I would like to show you just the graphical design of the frequency of news about the Hungarian presidency. As you might see, it just copies what I just said. So the blue dark curve, which shows the press and the lilac, and the light blue, which shows the TV and the broadcast, and it's going rapidly up in January, during the January with the start of the Hungarian press. Then going through the carpet affair leading to the March EU summit with the fines for overdrafted budgets, which is the part of the Euro Plus Pact, and followed by Hungary exception. And also over the last 2 weeks or months, there also were some news about the strong belief that Croatia will conclude its accession negotiations. At this point, I would like to sum up that the overall image that was given to Hungarian presidency, at least in the Czech media, was predominantly influenced by the inner domestic politics rather than the real actual performance of the Hungarian presidency as such, or by the real capability of Hungary to preside in the council. So I think it's very essential to say it in the end, and thereby I would like to conclude my presentation and just say that we kept our fingers crossed for the Hungarian presidency because we knew how it felt to do it for the first time. Thank you.